We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Past. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Past, and I hope you all enjoy.
Hello, darkness, how you been? Clink, clink. Happy Wednesday. We back at it again. Seems like forever. Really ain't been forever. It's only been a week. Well, you can count. It's just one or two ways you can look at it. You can either say it's been a week, or you can say it's been a little less than a week, only because the cast of comrades became a thing last week. Probably still a podcast and or recording that I did not have projected to go the way it did, but somehow it has now become a thing. I'm not mad. Personally, I don't. I mean, let's deep dive for a second. It's not really even a deep dive. It's just a bit of a walkcast follow up from the Cafe Cast. I am one of those people that have been so structured to do things a certain way. I know no other way. In many instances, I'm accustomed to doing something the way that I know to do it, and that be the end of it. Now, let's be clear. By nature and by default, many of us have sporadic occurrences or sporadic instances where we do things a little off the grid, out of the box, not your norm, however you wanna coin it. Well, as I mentioned on that show, and as I'm sharing with you all, that has been a thing that I've wanted to do for the longest time, but I always was unsure how it would go or how it could turn out. What's funny though is I've listened to various podcasts, and one in particular, I don't remember the lady's name, but she's very high on productivity. It's almost like productivity and ADHD and Notion. She's a Notion girly. She is a big template fanatic, and yeah, she truly puts a lot of content out there related to it. Now, I'm not sure if she's still rocking it out or not, but she did a particular episode or a particular podcast that you literally could hear them like at a local coffee shop. And the thing is, like, everything comes down to location, right? So where we were sitting, we were kind of away from the madness, aka. So if you, it don't matter where you go, what coffee shop you've been to or haven't been to, if you're near where coffees are being made or espressos or whatever is being made, ain't enough equipment, enough audio programs, ain't enough compression to quote unquote drown out background noise. And I'm sharing this in context purposes, but also just generic purposes because when you're very dedicated and in some instances devoted to your audio, you don't want it to sound like trash. Because the worst thing to do is do a pod. And I've done this. I've been like, you all wouldn't know it because it's not something that I'm really public on, but there have been a very minimal and few amount of times that I've done the show, recorded it, sat in front of the computer to go back and listen to it, and it's just clipped audio or it's just not worth even wasting my time to upload. However, obviously you all aren't going to know that because it's not heard on the surface. I say that because with the coffee cast or cafe cast, if the audio was to that extreme, the show wouldn't have touched the light of day, literally. But then I would have people who and in every right they would not be hurt in experiencing it. They would ask, "Well, why isn't the show out there? You should have uploaded it. I wanted to hear how it sounds." And I'm like, "You're not gonna hear anything." Like I said, thankfully, and shout out to the shout out to the inexpensive wireless microphones because, like I said, I bought. It's still it's still the craziest thing. I bought one, and when it came in, I was like, "Thank goodness, I'm definitely about to use it." Because the other ones I have, I like using them. Um, but this particular one is probably my go-to. And, in using it, like when ordering it, it came with like they sent like two more afterward, and I was like, I don't need all of these. So thankfully, I was able to gift them to other people, and as the infamous phrase goes, the rest is history. Hopefully, they are able to be used, and luckily, there are instructions, there are ways to utilize them and stuff like that. I hope this kid do not follow me. Yeah, of course, still ain't going that far though, because they don't know where they're going. Yep, saw that one coming. This is the other thing I like about doing walkcasts is stuff will happen and you all are just getting it like in real time. There's not really and I've shared this with people before. Like, yes, I edit my podcast. Yes, I take time to quote unquote perfect the craft and all that stuff. However, majority of the time, the audio that you all hear, there's not much that's been changed other than some minor cleanups. Like with these, Walkcasts are probably the only ones where I really and truly don't have much of a modification that I'm doing. Other than I'm just going back and looking at it and seeing, okay, it's almost like I'm my own in the development world. I'm my own QA, and when you're your own QA, it can be a good thing or a bad thing. But in podcasting roles or routines, especially because I've done it so much, I'm kind of I'm pretty used to it. I'm pretty accustomed to knowing what to expect from my sound or how it should flow, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but yes, the lady who did her show, she did it at a cafe. Show went good. Like I said, you can hear everything going on. When we first got to the cafe, I like to give y'all behind the scenes because not everybody. This is the what's not shared during the cast type of conversation. But um, we were downstairs, and I was like, oh, like I can. This ain't a bad setup. And then I'm like, the microphones won't be too bad. And ironically, like where we were sitting, there was a lady right beside us who was like on a phone call. And a lot of times, depending on the cafe, it's a couple things. It depends on the cafe. It depends on the background noise. It depends on how good your audio can compress background noise. You can sit certain places and take calls, and no one would really know unless you say it. Oh, I'm at so and so. So I say that because I don't think we would have been of any benefit to her space if we had stayed and tried to record down there. So it worked out in the long run to basically go upstairs, do the show, and my minor tweak, and this is a me thing big time, is I'm so accustomed to knowing my voice, but I also can forget sometimes that with lavalier mics and with wireless lavalier mics, they are very, how you would say, sensitive to the touch. Meaning, if you are literally like wearing AirPods and doing these type of walkcasts, you all aren't gonna notice a thing because the sound is pretty crisp, pretty clear. Whereas we were sitting in the cafe, my phone was sitting down, I got the mics hooked up, and we were talking, but I didn't really like. I would look at the levels when she was talking, but I really wasn't looking at it when I was talking. But when I talked, there were a couple of, as they call it in the audio slash podcast world, peaks, or a couple of like not high pitches, but like points where it was louder than normal. And deep down, I'm not like obligated to give these intangibles because they're not the end of the world. It's not gonna be like, oh my God, like it was the worst audio in the world. I should never record a podcast again. It was more of, okay, we did good, but as always, I'm looking to do better. Um, Even in a joking sense, like my boy when he came on, I think it was 40. I want to say like 403. I know it was at the 400 because I was looking to have him on for 400, and things happened, life happened, so it wasn't a big deal. But um, I got him on a few episodes after, and we did a show, and he was like, "I ain't like how it sounded," and I was like, "I understand it happens, but still was worked up and done well." And then he was like, "All right, well, I want to get back on the show," and I was like, "Yeah, now you're coming back on with me having like wholly different equipment." The flow is still the flow. Like my flow hasn't changed with my podcast really at all. I even jokingly, again, realistically threw an olive branch out there to a friend of mine. Shout out to Lex. Uh, Lex has been on my show twice. I don't think the cool kids. They've been on a fair amount of times. Uh, Twin Talk, we've had those a fair amount of times. But as far as like my guests who are folks who I know, but you all may or may not know, is like having them come back and repeat or update on anything new. It's always fun. It's always solid. So, but yeah, the Cafe Cast, like I said, I'm looking to do something like that again soon. Ironically, I think it's this Saturday, but they're doing a writing event, and I was indifferent if I wanted to attend or participate or not, only because I don't think I've been. The last time I went to a writing event for this group, because it's called Shut Up and Write, it's probably one of my undervalued writing networking groups, but I think what changed with me not attending them as often, well, there were a couple things. One, I started to have a bit of a heavier prep towards walks, towards workouts, towards personal habits such as Saturday, if I have to, I'll do stuff, but if it's really just not the urgency there of doing stuff, it became I do nothing day. And two, especially now with me recently doing, like recently it's really started to hit with doing, because it's like my boy had to break it down. He was like, yeah, it's been 8 weeks of you doing the walks. And I was like, damn, it don't seem like it. But of course, when time moves, time moves. So um, he added those walks in, and Saturdays is like it's a matter of okay, me getting up, me getting to the track, churning in at least give or take an hour. Most of the time, it doesn't take an hour, but it all depends on the mood, and just kind of going into that mode or into that zone of walking or jogging or whatever the case may be. Uh, but why I say that is when I'm done with that, the last thing I'm thinking about is going to write because I can commit and say, sure, I'm going to attend, but then I also have to think of my intention, my headspace. Am I going to be like coherent enough to write? It's so many like personal analytics that I'm throwing in there. But I will say this when I was attending, um, at least January, February, and I'll say part of March, it was helpful from the aspect of my newsletter because when I would go, I knew, okay, this hour, whether anybody's pressed to reach out or check in or whatever, this time frame is allotted to me doing my proper writing, doing my proper unpacking. And you have to, in so many words, you're personally put in a position to like accept that. And I did. Um, so that's kind of the dance around with cafes, with writing. Productivity has gone, and I've talked about this on I believe my last episode or 12. The productivity flow has become very hybrid. It's hybrid, but predominantly analog. And I've been scheming back and forth with digital, especially with like not even digital minimalism, but more of like reducing the the usage of things. And like I talked about it like it came up as a topic on 411. I gave it a huge amount of emphasis on 412. It was discussed in one of my morning quotes, my recent morning quote on Mondays. it will probably be a topic for the upcoming newsletter. But truth is, I'm not I'm not as inclined or pressed to quote unquote go out as I used to be. And why I'm saying that, or why I'm starting with that, is because in many instances, I'd rather be home with the things that I paid for and using them. So the the book I have, like I said, I have a physical copy and a digital copy of The Alchemist. I've started The Alchemist because I shared a few days ago about my July reads, and one of them was uh was The Alchemist. So it's The Alchemist, Four Agreements, Subtle Art, and I can't remember the fourth book offhand. I was gonna say Atomic Habits, but I don't think it's Atomic Habits. Uh, it's gonna pop up in my head when I least expect it. Like I said, I'm thinking about it way too heavy, but it's gonna pop up. Like I said, it's gonna come up when I least expect it. That was a good time because first part of the 20 is done, so we to the second. Inbox Zero. Inbox Zero is, I don't know if there is a correlation personally, and this, y'all, like I said, hang around, but this will get a little interesting for a lot of folks who find themselves aggravated with mailboxes. But then I also had like some wake up calls about mailboxes for work or for personal. Um, I'm gonna start with a story, but not really a story, but it'll all make sense. First came into my current employment. You know, many of you know this, doing help desk, service desk, whatever. And side note, many folks who I know are consistently, constantly, genuinely looking to break into tech. I don't I don't knock the the avenues and the lanes of doing search, doing boot camps, doing different programs. But a lot of times the guarantee isn't going to be as guaranteed in many instances. LinkedIn can be the best thing, but it can also be a bit of a chaotic crapshoot with finding like that dream gig or that dream opportunity. I'm starting with that only because you literally will find in time that one of the avenues or the ways to kind of pull the trigger or get that push is temp it out. Granted, you might be hurt on the benefit side, but bang out the temp side of it. Get some get some experience on the table, and then figure out where you're trying to go, what you're trying to do. Now it could be you may rock that spot out for a little bit permanently and then make your move, or you may be able to be in there for a little bit, like a little bit, and go elsewhere. Like I said, I've seen it in real time, so it's possible. But don't wanna switch gears too heavy with this. But many times, not often, but I do say many, there would be people who had access to mailboxes. We all, like every employee with a company, for the most part, has a mailbox or has access to their personal mailbox. Now, this access can go wide, it can go far, and it can go deep. Here's why I'm starting with that. There will be people who will access their work email as normal. Again, this could be a new segment, but not a new segment because now it's a little different because I'm not really in that role anymore. But it's almost like IT Anonymous in a sense. But I don't really have as many stories because now that I've been away from it, I don't even like to recollect a lot of those thoughts. But these ones are like golden gems because you can't make up what would be the case. Um, a person will access their work email from their work computer. Totally fine, totally understandable. Well, a lot of people will do backups, and there's nothing wrong with doing backups of your uh, mailbox or your emails because you want to be able to get to them for any purpose or need of auditing or whatever. But when the back saves or when the logs of them are off of your computer, off of your work computer, and now you're handling them on your personal computer, and even worse, and many people may or may not know this is also a tech tip in a way too. Your backup files are going to be different between operating systems. Meaning, if you do a backup of your emails on Windows, they're going to give you a file. You're not going to be able to take that same file and move it over to a Mac. It's just not possible. Yes, Mac and Windows play nice with many applications and many resources, but you're not going to take, like, case in point, if you save a Mac document, like I forget the name of what they're called, because I try my damnedest to not use the default applications on Mac. It's like Pages, Sheets, something else. I can't remember. But if you're using them, you're very if you save it as its default name, that's not a Office compliant or whatever application you use compliant, it's going to be hard to access that particular file. So the same applies with Outlook as far as backups. Someone was trying to save emails. It was a whole plethora of chaos. And the toughest part is, in many instances, what you can do, but even doing this is very risky and can be very tricky. You can save the emails themselves, but there's so many. If you're getting so many emails, bring you up to speed today, and I'm gonna talk about my personal inbox fiascos because I have multiple. And when I tell my story, y'all gonna be like, "Lord, what are you doing?" My I work with I manage a shared mailbox with a with an engagement team at my job, and we were kind of put in a position to manage the mailbox, bring it up to speed, get some organization, get some structure, et cetera, et cetera. Well, when I first worked with it, I just kind of worked with it like I'm accustomed to working with my mailbox. I'd file things here and there, I'd prioritize them and all that stuff, but I really wasn't as fully invested or fully attached to that process at the time. Luckily, one of my colleagues, who's president of this group, was able to have access to it as well and kind of cleaned it up. So it made me think to myself, I'm like, how am I managing my mailbox other than just going in, seeing what's there, keeping it moving. And the truth is, I don't, because there are rules that I have set for when certain people message me. All of that works out fine for the most part. But then when you get down to the minor, minuscule things such as, uh, so they're like right now, I just got added to a team and there are different messages that come in and I'm not setting rules for certain emails. It's not a lot because it's simple once you go in and it's like, hey, something comes from this sender, send it here. Um, so that's like right now, like my work mailbox has, for the most part, been pretty well groomed and well like handled. Like it hasn't been like chaotic by far. But let's call a spade a spade. I don't let that bad boy go, and I've noticed it when I let it go. Uh, so now I'm trying my hardest to like anything that's junk mail. Junk mail is all in its own world. Um, Promotions, those go in their own world. I have like what's called a focused inbox, which I'll focused inbox slash priority inboxes are a what we call a sweet dream and a beautiful nightmare. And here's why. They will get messages to you as necessary. But if you're not a person who is paying attention to patterns and signs of different messages that come in, you're just going to receive them as normal and they go away. And there's pros and cons to a lot of this because sometimes stuff will come in that doesn't hit, that may not hit or apply to a rule, or it applies to a rule that you've already set. And because that rule has been set, the mail is going to follow the rule. So you're missing information as it's coming in. But then there's the flip side of, oh, well, we got this going on and you should attend and you should participate. And it's like, I ain't know nothing about it because it didn't come in. But it did. It just didn't come in the way I needed it to. Now I'm going to go to my personal inbox. And like I told y'all, this gets really deep and it gets really insane because it's become a reality without realizing it needed to be a reality. So I did, like I've been using Gmail. My current Gmail account I've had for 4 years. So I want to say I got it like the summer of COVID. So literally like around this time in 2020. Because I set it up between some LLC transitions, between some social media snafus on my part, a lot of things. But before that, I had my other Gmail accounts. I still have like my original OG Gmail accounts that no one really knows about or has even, they really and barely have seen the light of day, which I'm happy with by far. Um, I'm accessing my new one that I use, and looking through it, I have it set to priority inbox, which means only messages that are from people that I know are gonna be of like I need to handle this matter, they come in first. Then I have all my starred emails that I've personally starred, or now that I'm using Spark, I've pinned them. So if they have a pin in Spark's language is star in Gmail's language. So it knows, okay, this message was starred, place it in starred, or if I'm using Spark, it'll place it in pinned. And then we have this whole plethora of emails that just come in. And they come in like waterworks. Any and every business that you have signed up for or you've provided an email to, They're sending emails. We know that. We're used to it. We're accustomed to it. But those messages will come in, and we really don't do anything with them. Case in point, the last couple of months, I've signed up for different tips and tidbits with productivity, with planning, with organizing, with um, just different resources. And many of them will get starred or pinned, but then the dilemma is, all right, cool, you got it set aside, but have you followed up or even genuinely read what was sent from, say, a message? 85 to 90% chance the answer is no. I knew it was coming. I'm gonna let y'all hear it. Just hopefully it don't come all the way down here. I'm gonna let this go though. I know I always like to give y'all information in real time. Okay. That's what I was hoping for. I was like, just turn. I just need you to turn. And they were coming this way. They were coming this way. I just had to pause and pick it back up. But I promise y'all I'm getting to the plot. 18,000, give or take, emails have been unread. Now, let me shoot some, not even bail, throw some reality at you all. When you get messages, and if they're in your non-priority mailbox, they're just there. And they just sit and they sit and they sit and they collect. And I really never looked at the amount of emails there were because it would say 150 of many. And you're like, oh, okay. I'll look at them. I'll get to them. Not thinking about those features such as archiving, deleting, or whatever the case may be. I've used the mailbox a while ago, but I didn't use it like I wanted to. So I got back to using it again, and it's called Spark. Not doing this as a paid sponsorship, nothing. I'm just sharing this story. So Spark, my Spark account has basically what I call the big three, which is my main personal account, my design account, which has been very stagnant, of course, and my podcast account, which is a little stagnant, but still gets quite a bit of traction as far as messages goes. Well, fast forward, like I said, I looked at the amount, and I think I have it as a safe, as an accepted app on here. I do. So right now, I get, I have, yeah, it's not even gonna show it because there's so many. There are over, anytime you have a app open and you see the message, you see the little icon beside the mailbox hit what is considered the max, which in this case is 999 plus, which means there are over 1,000 unread messages between each of those emails. And like I said, going back to the other individuals, it's a little different because in and in my case, it's interesting because as someone in IT, you learn work wise. If you don't need it, read it and keep it moving, or read and delete. Some stuff can be deleted. Some stuff you want to hold on to because this may come back and not necessarily bite you in the ass, but it might be something to be of importance down the line. So I say that whole spiel to just share with you all to be more aware of your not just content consumption, but your mailbox consumption. because there are a lot of people, if they saw my mailboxes, they would have anxiety, rightfully so. I'm to a point where I'm even considering, and I'm recording this in real time. All right, good morning. In real time, I'm considering literally doing a inbox detox, I guess, where I go in because I believe I have Spark on my iPad. Either I'm going to do it from my iPad, or if there's a web version of Spark, I may use that as well. But I need to just go in and start fleshing out emails because there's so many messages that come in that are literally not even being seen. And then it forces businesses to say, hey, we've been sending you things and you haven't really been responding. Is everything okay? And deep down, you're like, life has not put me in a position to claim everything being okay. So I've not really been thinking about a message from 5 months ago or last year. Um, and mail can pile up. Like email has a higher probability of piling up than email has a higher probability of piling up than your traditional snail mail. But snail mail can as well because most of the time it may be not even a bill, but it can be an invoice. And as part of it, I wrote one of these a couple of years ago and I need to consider where to place it now that I've like reconfigured my desk. But it now comes down to, okay, you have this item to manage your manage your mailbox as far as like your personal regular mail that comes in through the post office. How are you handling your actual electronic mail? Which from the beginning of like a while back, that was why when I mentioned the whole hybrid thing, that's really been something that I thought about. Their logo looks almost like Fandango. That's kind of funny. Um, either Fandango or FanDuel. I'm thinking of one of the two. Uh, it's FanDuel, not Fandango. Fandango looks like the ticket. It gives off like ticket booth vibes. If you know, you know. But as we near the end of the walk, we pushing almost 50, which I knew was gonna happen. Um, yeah, just really trying to get control of the simple things, which to some, if they were to see it, it would be chaotic and hectic. Like even my calendar now, when people look at my mailbox calendar, like my Gmail account or Google Calendar or whatever, they're like, you have all of that stuff on there together. And I was like, yeah, it's not a lot because I kind of try to make sure they're separate, but utilized as necessary. Um, but whew, it is, uh, it is very important to place some structure in your tech. And I'm gonna add like this is like a closing remark to anyone who's listening. There's a term that I got introduced to thanks to Space Time Productivity. Shout out to them. It is called Tech Rest. And my remix of it is Resting Tech. And I don't care how much you might not think it's a big deal or may not have an impact on you to that extreme, but sometimes emphasis on sometimes, or asterisk frequently and or often, you may need a moment to put tech to rest, put tech away. And when I say put tech away, if your job consists of you working on technology, I 100% get it. So if that's the case, Monday through Friday is off the table. Now you're put in a what do I do? Meaning for Saturday and or Sunday, do I cut it off? And for some people, me being one of them, it can be challenging, especially if you're now if you're doing casual things with tech, that's one thing. But if you're thrown into the wildfire of I gotta check my mailbox, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, like you're adding things to look for just to find reasons to check tech. And tech, to be clear, is I call it the big three: phone, tablet, computer. And computer can be laptop or desktop because there are some people who live and die by their desktops. And and I'm never going to have like a gripe about desktops. Even as a Mac user, like a lot of people who have iMacs, they will spend a vast majority of their day in front of their iMac, which is fine. But if you're needing and knowing that you need that space and that opportunity to tech rest, it's hard to do so if you're consumed by the tech more than resting the tech and resting your mind and resting your body. So tech rest, managing your mailbox, consistent reading. Once I'm back inside, gonna destroy some water real quick. Staying hydrated, like literally, and I'm reminding you all of this because it is not to be played with, especially this summer. The heat is gonna be heating this year. I talked with someone. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and they were explaining how they're from Texas, and it's like anytime I think of heat, Texas, Cali, Las Vegas, always. I never not hear them talk about how hot it is because I understand like their heat is like a different monster. Many times Florida gets thrown in there, but then we have our scenarios and our thoughts about how Florida can be an interesting state because if we could, we'd saw it off the off the grid. But what do I know? So yeah, we're gonna end this here, and I will catch you all again soon. I'm going to be possibly making an announcement on something. I'm gonna see because I've been back and forth with bi-weekly shows. I've been doing bi-weekly shows for a few weeks and it's been working, but I'm really I think I'm ready to ramp it up again and get back to weekly shows. But the weekly shows may have a bit of an alteration for the sake of. So we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. There's an item that I may be investing in because I may start, all things considered, I may start doing more recordings at home. Of course, like if I have guests is a bit of a different option because acoustics, space, options, so many different variables behind that. But I may be looking at like a recording now sign because I've thought about getting one of those for a while, but never got it. But I may need to get one soon to like make it known, like, hey, it's busy, it's action, it's loud, it's live. Like, don't, unless you need something, please just 10 minutes, 20 minutes, I don't know, an hour. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Until next time, be the past signing out, BT signing out. Y'all have a good one.
Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout.
been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.